Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the applause. And first off, I will apologize. I'm sorry, there was a little confusion in my household, and I did not end up with, does anybody really know what time it is, on a CD that I could play. So hear it in your heads. It's New Year's, turning over a new leaf, starting a new chapter, all of that kind of stuff. That was my intention, so I will simply send you my intention. And I'm also going to start by lighting the candles on our Kinara over here. This is for Kwanzaa, and I want to just incorporate it into the very beginning of our service today. So Kwanzaa is an African-American cultural holiday. As I light the candles, I'll tell you what each one is for. I'm not going to be able to manage to light candles, hold a microphone, etc. No, it's okay. I'm pretty sure you're all going to be able to hear me. There aren't that many of us here this morning. So Kwanzaa, as I said, is African American culture. It was inaugurated in 1966, so it has been around for a while, but it's not quite as ancient as some of the other holidays at this time of year. Generally, it begins on the day after Christmas and ends officially yesterday, but because we weren't in church over that time period, I thought it would simply be nice to light the candles today so that we don't overlook it this year. So the black candle gets lit first, and it stands for unity. And then in a rotating pattern, beginning at the outside edge with the red, we light the candle for self-determination, and then this green one for collective work and responsibility. This red one stands for cooperative economics, purpose, which is a little, there we go, creativity, and faith. And the faith that is intended is not any particular individual religious faith. It is faith in the community and the culture and the people that come together to make that up. So I will bring our Tibetan bowl for us. So hello, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Westside Congregation in Rio Rancho. I think you all know that I am the Reverend Dr. Nancy Hibbins, Subject Minister for this congregation. That's a piece I think I could probably say in my sleep. This is our first service of the new year, and together we will be exploring the heritage and the legacy of New Year's events. We will also offer you, I'm saying we, I think that's what we call the royal we, because clearly it's I, except that I do this on behalf of really all of you, specifically the programming team and the board, but this is a group effort, and I will ask throughout the course of our time together today for a little bit of help, either lighting candles or doing something that would be of assistance during the service, so if you're willing to do that at the time, just hop right up. But we will be engaging in what I hope is a meaningful, ritual way to acknowledge the fresh start that comes with the beginning of 2022. I, for one, am really up for a fresh start for 2022. So if you are here in our sanctuary, we will be doing this later in the service. I'm sure you've already seen a few unusual pieces around the sanctuary and wondered, oh my gosh, what's she going to make us do now? I promise I'm not going to make you do anything, but you will have the opportunity, should you choose to take advantage of it, to do a number of things, or one thing of your own choosing. But that will be later on in the service. Excuse me. If you are online and joining us later, we will share a plan for doing something similar in your current location later. Our service is based on Principle 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We hope that you have an expanded understanding of what that entails by the conclusion of our service. Today we thank Bram and Roxy for greeting us as we arrived, Steve Poyani for videotaping our service, and Dana Sanford for monitoring our sound system. I don't see any first-time visitors in our sanctuary, but if you are visiting us for the first time online, we welcome you and encourage you to use our website, UUWC.org, to contact us with comments or questions. Here are our announcements for this week. Rio the dog still appreciates your reusable newspapers. Her bin is outside the social hall door. 2 weeks from yesterday, our first West Side hike will take place under the leadership of Teresa Watson. We will be meeting here at the church at noon on Saturday, January 15th. Reread your newsletter or speak directly to Teresa if you have questions. Our annual meeting, congregational annual meeting, is in 2 weeks on January 16th, following the potluck lunch in the social hall. If you have issues you'd like the congregation to discuss, please share those with Steve Poyani. Please remember that you must be a member to vote at the meeting, which requires a $1 annual contribution to maintain active membership. We also customarily extend voice without vote to anyone attending the meeting, and we do encourage everyone to attend. So if you are relatively new to the experience of being UU Westside and would like to come and see what the annual meeting is all about, please do. And we invite you, or I will invite you in advance, to speak up if you have something to say, to ask a question, whatever. The only thing that you would not be eligible to participate in is actual voting. Is there anything else that anyone needs to have brought to our attention? Okay. I will point out that a number of our folks are still traveling. I'm glad to see Sherry's back. But I know that half a dozen others or so are either in the process of returning home today or sometime in the very near future after having celebrated holidays with family and friends. So thank you. I would like a volunteer who would be willing to light our chalice. Anybody? Dave. If you would all stand as you are able and join me in the words for lighting our chalice today. Yes. Time after time, our chalice flame is lit. Time after time, we gather to reconnect, to learn, and to embrace the truth we find in its light. Time after time is every time. It is now. Shalom. And please join me in affirming our aspirations together. Life is a gift. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. In the light of truth and in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls grow into harmony with creation. Thus do we covenant with one another. Shalom. Now if you take your hymnal and open to number 360. Now I sort of think we know this, but I've been known to be wrong. And clearly, We don't have Carol with her guitar today, so we are an a cappella group. But I think we can do this, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can, sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us, as we give we gain. Sing now in friendship this our heart's own song. Thank you. Please be seated. I will need some help with joys and concerns. Is there someone who'd be willing? Sherry? Oh, thank you. The basket of candles is right here. Yeah, if you would do that, because I've got a few. And just pull it right up here. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to hinder my one. There. Sharing our joys and concerns is a timeless practice that helps us catch up with what's happening in each other's lives and connect with each other over what matters most to us. We invite you to share your joys and concerns here in the sanctuary by raising your hand, and I will come around with the mic. Sherry will light a candle for each one. If you are joining us via video, you may light your personal candle at any time, or wait until we light our last one here so that you may speak your concerns aloud. We begin today with much concern about 2021 and how it's ended. In regard to voter redistricting, climate change, increasing violence, COVID-19, marked financial change and struggle, more accessible education, and meaningful work. Inadequate dissemination of information. You only need one candle because there's way too many. I thought about this and I thought, just naming this stuff, we're going to fill the tray. And I don't want to fill it with the stuff that we're really hoping to make go away, or at least somehow heal and get better. But we are ending 2021 with depleted stores of hope for a world worn out by the pandemic and all of its network of extended effects. And so we acknowledge that first and foremost as a real concern for all of us. And next, we light a candle of joy for the opportunity to take inventory, to collaborate with others, to recommit to working for what is right and just and good. Now I'll pick up the other microphone, and if you have joys or concerns, or some of each. Would anyone like the mic?
Just so everybody knows, Melinda and Eric have a joy. They went to their family gathering in Santa Fe today.
Others?
I have a joy that I got to go home and see my family, and my niece was in what could have been a very, very deadly accident. And she and the young man with her survived with a sprained ankle.
Wow.
So that's a joy.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, I have a concern for myself and my partner, Linda. We're moving on Tuesday, and we don't know where to. So if, there's that and there's the joy that this place exists. I almost didn't come today and I couldn't,
So glad you did.
I couldn't not see people. I just feel so much energy here. So, thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Joy, concern? All right, then we will light one last white candle for all that we still hold in the privacy of our own hearts and minds. We light this red candle in deep concern for all those suffering with the oppressive and destructive realities of racism. In honor of their struggles, in memory of their deaths, we light this candle against the dark and commit to increasing the light in our world. Shalom. Thank you, Sherry. Now we invite Bram to come and share our animal ministry moment with us.
This is called Healer. Animals possess extraordinary healing abilities, and stories of animals healing and helping to heal humans abound. The healing our animals provide can encompass a variety of areas, from physical ailments to emotional issues and even a broken heart. Anyone who's spent a lot of time with an animal companion after a painful loss can attest to that. But animals are also able to heal themselves, help us heal them, and help us heal ourselves. The deeper the connection, the deeper the healing. And our animal companions also help us to cultivate our own healing gifts. When you're feeling sick or experiencing an ailment, pay attention to your animal friend's actions in relations to you and even your chakras. Animals will often lie on a point or a specific area that needs healing or chakra that needs balancing. And this is but one incredible way animals share their healing abilities with us. Now this is a cat, and this is called Brothers. They say we are brothers, though we look nothing alike. They say we are family, though we differ so much. I am Tabby, you are brown. I am long, you are short. I am thin, you are stout. I am lively and you are shy. I am a kitten, you are a hamster. But kin is kin. So let me run on your wheel, please.
So, if you'll humor me, I want you to sing a song with me. And you've already been really good about it once, so I'm really going to stretch the envelope here. Remember Jingle Bells when you start with, Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. Come on, I didn't want to do a solo.
Over the hills we
O'er the
go,
fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtails ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
Hey!
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Thank you. Now I have a question. Those bells we were singing about, where are they located? On the horse. Okay. Any place in particular that you envision them on the horse?
On harness?
On the harness. Okay. It also specifically says bobtails. A number of breeds of horses, like a number of breeds of dogs, human beings subject to docking their tails, and then they become bobtailed horses. Apparently, if a horse is, I was going to say lucky enough and thought, oh no, that's the wrong image. But if a horse has a bobtail, it's not unusual to put sleigh bells on it. Now, the kind of bells that we jingle, when you picture them, it's not a bell, oh, and I meant to bring out the little hand bell. Well, anyway, it's not a bell with a clapper. Jingle bells are round, and the edges are, folded into the center, or they're crimped, and what makes them jingle is a little bead inside, as opposed to a clapper, because you could make a whole lot of noise if you just rang a bell really hard, but when horses are galumphing along, the jingle bells make a whole lot more sound. Now, what I wanted to let you know is that this type of bell was designed in medieval Europe in the Middle Ages, specifically for fastening to harnesses used with horses or teams of horses. They were often used for horse-drawn vehicles such as carriages and sleighs, and they deliberately made the bell to make a jingly sound, which is different, as I said, from a bell with a clapper, whenever the horse, and thus the vehicle, was in motion. The purpose was either to announce the approach of someone important, or, far more likely and practical, to warn pedestrians of the vehicle's approach so that they could get out of the way and avoid collision and injury. Now, this is especially important for sleighs. How many people here have ever ridden in a sleigh? Ooh, quite a few. Okay, so the sleigh is on runners and it glides. You don't have wheels turning. A sleigh can actually be quite silent on packed snow. So if you were whipping along in your horse-drawn sleigh without jingle bells and nobody could hear your coming, the likelihood of some kind of disaster goes way up. Put those jingle bells on those horses, and it's the equivalent of equipping every car that comes off the assembly line with a horn. We need something to get people's attention and establish what my driver ed instructor always used to call eye-to-eye contact. And with that, we can avoid disaster. So, you might also be interested to know that Gustav Mahler makes use of jingle or sleigh bells in Symphony No. 4. And there is other classical music that also makes use of jingle bells, along with how many classrooms, when you were a kid, did you get to play with these in school? Yeah, I remember doing it. So I wanted to share with you a story from current events, because not only is it current event in that it literally just happened, but it's also something that pertains to an issue that we are currently involved in paying a whole lot of attention to. You may have seen this article about the Rochester, New York School Board. Anybody see it? I know I sent it to a few people, but yeah, okay. The school board of Rochester, New York Elementary School have removed singing jingle bells from the school's approved curriculum due to its potential to be controversial or offensive. Now, this is based on a sincere concern that they not be teaching or elevating potentially racist material. which at first glance is hard for many of us to find in that particular song. Did anybody have racist imagery leap to mind when they hear or sing Jingle Bells? No, okay. However, what we need to know is that the song was included in some of the music minstrel shows in the late 1800s, which definitely tarnishes its reputation. But leaping to action without thorough investigation often results in questionable actions. Somewhere, somehow, someone made a connection between the slaveholders' practice of putting a collar with bells on their slaves so that they could not escape at night easily, and the jingle bells of the song. Now, the Rochester School Board cited a 2017 article by Kina Hamill as the justification for their decision to remove the song. Interestingly, though, Ms. Hamill responded to their decision by saying she never documented any such thing, and the slave imagery described in connection with the sleigh bells in the song Jingle Bells had no connection whatsoever to what she had discovered during her research. She suggested that school officials identify, quotes, a well-referenced source for this claim. Now, sadly, that is possible, although it does require a little bit of stretching. If you go home later today and Google slave bell collars, there are pictures of multiple styles of collars with bells that were used in Texas to make it harder for slaves who had already tried to escape once to do so again. The song was written by Reverend James Lord Pierpont in 1850 for children celebrating Thanksgiving in Massachusetts. It was not a Christmas song until much later. It is also recognized as one of the best-known songs in America worldwide, or best-known American songs worldwide, which in no way exempts it from scrutiny for racist imagery. But it appears there is plenty of information about the song and its origins and use over time that the school board somehow overlooked. And while the possibility of racist imagery does exist, it's still a little bit of a stretch. Now, I bring this to you today as an example of good intentions gone questionably astray. The story raises the question of what due diligence looks like when the issue at hand is as vital as racism. I applaud the school board for their awareness that commonly accepted images, whether song or story or any other art form, may have racist roots that we no longer want to support or perpetuate in any way. And I have to critique them for not going far enough in their research. For a school board to not do its homework is not good. And it may very well be that after a more thorough investigation, the song's presence in minstrel shows and Pierpont's Confederate sympathies might be enough to call for its retirement. I don't know. What I'd like us all to take from this at the start of our new year is the need to be extremely thorough in our research when considering if or how an image contributes to racism. Because while it is good to expose and excise roots that are rotten, it is not good to make unsustained accusations. When the errors or weaknesses are discovered, they undermine the whole process of discernment. Now, if the school board wanted to make reparation of a sort for their erroneous misrepresentation, perhaps they could commission or hold a contest for new and updated lyrics. One member of the school board suggested that more modern imagery and songs were needed because not everyone celebrates the same holiday anyway. I'd like them to realize the basis of their own assumptions. Jingle Bells is not a Christmas carol. There is nothing Christian about it. And yet, in the article, it was clear that the school board was operating on the premise that Jingle Bells was part of the body of Christmas carol music. In fact, in the subsequent verses, have you ever sung more than the words we did? Oh, there are a couple more verses, and growing up, my father loved to get albums, because that's what you did back then, long ago. And we had an album of Christmas music that had all 3 verses of Jingle Bells on it. And so I can tell you that the second and third verses are rarely sung, because we find out that the sleigh tips over, and a rival of the driver laughs at him but refuses to help him. Again, not Christian, and certainly not the Christmas story. I'm not sure what modern song could replace it with more appropriate imagery for our school children, but somehow I am pretty sure that Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer is not going to cut it. Shalom. So, something to think about. And I will tell you that if you Google those images, there are terrifying in their own right sketches of the kind of collars that were put on slaves with bells. However, at least the ones that came across my screen did not actually have jingle bells on them, which made me feel slightly better about trying to make a distinction. And I still couldn't tell you what the absolute right thing to do is about that song. However, definitely things to think about. Jack, could you bring me, oh, there we go, Steve handed it off. Could you just hand that up? Oh, it's okay. Well then, I'm just going to say thank you for all of your good intentions and all of you who have already pledged income for 2022. This is our first Sunday, and let's just sing our song to renew our, you don't have to get up, you can stay in your seats. But I really appreciate that we found this chorus, because for me it sums up the whole dynamic of pretty much everything. So, from you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Thank you. Now if you will take your hymnal and open it to number 558. And I'm going to ask us to stand as we are able. And we'll do this responsively. I'll read the boldface type if you will respond with the italics. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven.
A time to be born and a time to die.
A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted.
A time to kill and a time to heal.
A time to break down and a time to build up.
A time to weep and a time to laugh.
A time to mourn and a time to dance.
A time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones together.
A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing.
A time to seek and a time to lose.
A time to keep and a time to throw away.
A time to care and a time to sow.
A time to keep silence and a time to speak.
A time to love and a time to hate.
A time for war
And a time for peace.
Thank you. Please be seated. We started our service today with me apologizing for not being able to have the music that raised the question. Does anybody really know what time it is? Does anybody really care about time? Other than running out of it and trying hard to be on it as much as we can, how do you think about time? Is it your friend or is it your annoying foe? What do you use to keep track of it? Are you someone who uses a clock? I will tell you it's a really good thing. There's a clock straight ahead that I can see. Do you use your wristwatch Your phone? Do you have one of those wristwatches that is your phone? So that, like the Dick Tracy comics of old? Yeah. In earlier times, people relied on church bells tolling the hours, or train whistles signaling ahead, or the cows walking in to be milked, or the position of the sun, or even the moon, to tell what time it was. Time often matters in our lives. Time is the substrate of the rhythm of our lives. It marks the arrival and the passing of events, sometimes in units as small as seconds, or even nanoseconds, which are literally 1/1000th of a second, giving a whole new dimension to the concept of a split second. Or maybe in units as large as a year, or a decade, or a century, or even an eon, which is literally 1,000 million years. Time is a human construct, yet it's based in natural phenomena. The rising of the sun, the changing of the seasons, are two basic natural events that give rhythm and predictability to our lives. Learning to measure and to mark them allowed our ancestors to predict events. When is the rainy season coming? When will the harvest be ripe? How can I avoid the monsoon when building my house? These and plenty of other issues were expedited by being able to measure time. At its base, keeping accurate time increases our human personal control over the events in our lives. It's not magic, but it is a formula that helps us form logical expectations and make realistic plans. If it's 3 a.m. and we're wide awake, we generally want to know that so that we can go back to bed. If we get up and start our day then just because we woke up, things may not go as well in our sleep-deprived state as we'd like. Likewise, if you're stuck in traffic and it feels like you have been there forever, it's a relief to be able to look at your watch and know it's only been 10 minutes, which is long enough, but not so long that no one will hang around and wait for you at the other end. And along with time and keeping track of it comes the idea of a fresh start. Those natural phenomena that prompted our awareness of what we came to call time in the first place are largely cyclical. The sun comes up in a 24-hour cycle. Those cows, they're on roughly a 12-hour cycle. Depending on where we live, there are a variety of seasons in the course of a year. Knowing what order they will appear in and the character of each one makes the difference between food and starvation. Following the life cycle of plants native to the area, people could begin to anticipate what was coming next without a calendar or a clock. Our ancestors were highly observant. If there was a pattern at work, they were likely to pick up on it. Look at places like Stonehenge, which is a prehistoric monument from which accurate astronomical observations can be made. Each of those standing stones weighs 25 tons. This is the work of some very determined human beings. And a logical question would be, why? Why be so concerned about time and gaining it or losing it or making up for it if it gets lost? What difference does it make to us if we answer that original question? Does anybody really know what time is? Does anybody really care? There's a philosophical angst there that seems to beg us to just say no. But the fact is, for most of history, at least recorded history, a function of time itself, the answer has been yes. Yes, there are people who know exactly what time it is. They live in Greenwich, England, whose timekeeping affects the whole world. And does anyone really care? Again, yes. Yes, we really do care. We care not so much for the abstract concept of time, but for the reasonably dependable image of control that it gives us. Especially as life has gotten more complex and there are more things to do and people to see, there is more to keep track of, and time becomes a very helpful concept. Where would we be without it? Imagine for a moment if we literally had no concept of time. If we agree to meet after the second meal of the day, how will that happen? How will I know that you ate when I did? What if I slept late and my whole day shifted by quite a bit? And what if you have a lot to get back to and can't wait for me to show up? Even if we both arrive after the second meal of our day. That could be a matter of a small inconvenience or life and death, depending on what's at stake. Time means a reasonable illusion of control, and control has often meant one's destiny, as in life or death. We want some input, some influence, ultimately some control over all of that. Time gives us that. Now I'm going to give you just a teeny tiny little bit of historical background, and then we're going to engage in some rituals that are designed to let us connect with time in whatever way we find most meaningful. But I thought it was intriguing that the oldest recorded New Year's Day celebration comes from ancient Babylonia around at least 2000 BCE. In Babylon, the Akitu festival was held to honor Marduk. Marduk was the patron deity of the city. Throughout Mesopotamia, other cities held their own festivals, and in some places, such as Ur, the festival was celebrated in the spring and fall at the equinoxes, because those were the days people recognized as a new cycle beginning. The 12 days of the Akitu festival, and about now you should be hearing the 12 days of Christmas sung in your head. The 12 days of this ancient festival were each marked by special ceremonies and observances. The most basic and foundational ceremony marked the spring barley harvest, where the king took on a symbolic role of presiding over the harvest. At a certain point in the festival, the king would enter the temple of Marduk and surrender the regalia of his office to the high priest. So he would hand over the equivalent of his crown and scepter. The king would then undergo a reaffirmation of his right to rule as a divine representative. After being found worthy in the eyes of Marduk, the king would receive his scepter, loop, mace, and crown back from the high priest. I think the Babylonians may win the prize for making the most out of New Year's Day. Now, the practice of making resolutions for the new year, which, does anybody remember the first time they learned about making New Year's resolutions? I remember being in second grade and having Mrs. Ford on our first day back from Christmas vacation explain what a resolution was and pass out that infamous yellow with the blue line paper, and we all had to come up with like 10 things for the new year. I have never felt so impressed with myself in my life. I mean, I didn't know you could do this. But anyway, the practice of making resolutions for the new year is thought to have first caught on among these Babylonian ancient people. And what they did was they made promises in order to earn the favor of the gods and start the new year off on the right foot. And reportedly, I'm not sure who the reporter is, but somehow academics have figured out that they would vow to pay off debts and return borrowed farm equipment. So if you got somebody else's shovel sitting in your shed, guess what, people? Everywhere, New Year's is a moment to consider our weaknesses and how we might reduce the vulnerabilities they pose, and to do something about the scary powerlessness that comes from thinking about the unsettling unknown of what lies ahead. As common as these shared behaviors are across both history and culture, it's fascinating to realize that the special ways that people note this unique passage of one day into the next are probably all part of the human animal's fundamental imperative for survival. So think about, how do you reassure yourself against the scariest things that the future holds? The only sure thing that lies ahead is the inescapable reality that we will all someday die. And with that in mind, people around the globe and down through time have done a variety of different things to protect themselves from that. In China, they set off fireworks. Those fireworks were specifically to scare away the demons that were otherwise waiting to seize you and haul you off with them. In 742, a missionary from England who went back to Rome was appalled that the Romans literally were out dancing in the streets, shrieking and carrying on, singing sacrilegious songs with tables laden with food, women wearing amulets, that's powerful, and offering them for sale. We've had ways of trying to corral chance, find predictability, and take just enough control of it so that we feel like we have agency and we can be safe. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to move us forward, although I will share one little rhyme with you. According to British folklore, you cannot do any sweeping. So if you cleaned your house on New Year's Day, maybe not do that next year, because you might sweep your good luck away. And they have this little verse, a medieval poem that goes like this. The idea is you should never sweep anything out without first bringing something in. Because if you sweep something out and something else comes in of its own volition, you might not like what that is. So they had this little verse that goes like this. Take out, then bring in, bad luck will begin. Bring in, then take out, good luck comes about. So any excuse to not have to clean the house is worth it. Now, what I have set up for us around the sanctuary, we had hoped yesterday to be able to have a bonfire and to do some separate ritual stuff then with the fire and being able to surrender what we wanted to get rid of, and fire is always transformative to be able to make whatever commitments we wanted to, looking ahead into the future. As we all know, Mother Nature decided we did not need to do that yesterday. So what I have for us today is not exactly the same, but sort of close. And I know we don't all resonate with the same imagery, etc. So here's what I've done. We have a series of 5 little stations around the sanctuary. So after I've sort of made you familiar with them, this is the first one over here. This is a bucket of sand. There's a little card down front, so you don't have to remember every word I'm saying. I gave you cheat sheets here. Because I know that we don't all always want to do every part of every ritual, and you don't have to this morning. You can play. I invite you to do what somehow hits a chord with you and feels meaningful, or to do absolutely everything that's available. Either is absolutely fine. The bucket of sand is here so you can draw a line in it. You can set a boundary, which only you will know what that boundary is and what it means to you. What's on one side of it, what's on the other side. So you simply take, well, I would say your index finger, but honestly I don't care which finger you use, so just literally draw a line in the sand. That's self-definition in the earth here. And then come across here to the table with the blue cloth and the towel and the bowl and pitcher. And yes, there is water. It's no longer warm, but I tried. I put hot water in. But water is something that is both cleansing. We use it for bathing in a literal sense, also in a symbolic sense. I invite you to either run your hand through it. There is a towel here. And I remind you that the virus, COVID, is not spread in this way through objects at all, so we're good with that. If you prefer and you want to pour a little bit more water into the bowl because that is a gesture that makes sense to you and has some particular meaning for you as you start this new year, then you may do that. And then down the side aisle and around, Behind where Bram is sitting, there is a stool draped in white with a lovely southwestern turquoise fan on it. Because air is another one of our basic elements that is both transformative in nature. Air is something that is literally in contact with everything, and so if you focus your intention and pay attention to air, you also are in connection with everything or anything you would like to be. Air is life-sustaining. We need it. We cannot survive without it. So there is a small card there that invites you to simply let the air from the fan, and it's not real heavy, it's not a blast, it's a gentle breeze, but let it blow into your face and just be aware of it and its motion, its life-sustaining place in your own life, and anything else that comes to you as you engage with that. And then next to Roxy, there's a copper, well, it's ironic, but it's actually an ice bucket, but we're using it for fire because it will handle that. There is a lit candle inside there. The slips of paper that you were given when you came in, and I put one very carefully here and I've managed to lose my own. Here it is. These. There are pens in your pew, and so if there is anything that you would like to either get rid of from 2021 that you want to put to flame and walk away from, or an intention that you want to see transformed into reality in your life. Write that down. When you get around to the copper bowl, light it in the flame of the candle and just drop the paper in the bowl. It will burn with no problem. Come back down around this side and to the middle aisle, and that lovely orange draped pedestal, I don't know what else to call that, has a copper container on top that has dirt in it, and a glass bowl with seeds. There's also a pen there. The pen is there so you can poke holes in the dirt. Take one of the seeds, drop it into the hole, because planting seeds is about the most transformative thing I could think of. To be able to go from a little tiny, some of them are round, some of them are long and skinny. Yes, I do know which are which and what they are, but I'll wait to tell you till later. If you need to know, you can ask me then. But I'm putting this in our path so that we can choose to intentionally plant something together and see what we can make grow as a representation of our own community. So draw a line in the sand, water as cleansing, dedicating, whatever, whichever you prefer, around to the air and over to the fire, back down and around to plant a candle. And I am going to play some music just to give us some sense of background. And although you don't have to do them in any particular order, you will help the flow of traffic if you use the route that I've been prescribing. So let me put the music on, and as you feel moved, you can head to wherever you want to start and go from there. Shalom. Now I'm going to invite you to take your hymnal and stand and face that center pot of seeds that we just put together. And open your hymnal to number 534. It is a responsive reading of praise and dedication, and I am suggesting that we intentionally say this to our communal symbol of the seeds in that pot. Again, I will begin with the boldface type, if you would respond with the italics. Gloria,
The tenacity of earth and its creatures,
Kyrie eleison,
these children who will go on to say what we cannot.
Baruch atah Adonai,
The ordinary tenacity of plants and of people.
Aum,
The center of the universe, which is everywhere, not the less place in the human heart.
Alleluia,
Love that survives anger and winter and despair and sorrow and even death.
Shalom,
Love that persists.
Nam Yoho Renge Kyo,
Calm that is the sea in the dark.
Amen,
For endings that are beginnings, for beginnings that are endings.
Alleluia,
For the circle, the spiral, the web, the egg, the orbit, the center, the seed, the flower, the fruit, the opening, the death, the release, the seed.
Amen,
We are going on.
Amen,
It is going on.
Amen.
Blessed be.
Why are you?
Thank you. Please be seated. Whether you were aware of it or not, we sort of walked a spiral as you went around and then came back up the center aisle, which was intentional. I was trying to get us to engage with as many of our own symbols of life as we possibly could. I think in the interest of time, we will skip the concluding song. We'll sing it another time. And would somebody assist me by putting out the chalice as we read that together? Dave, okay. We stand as we are able. The flame is extinguished, yet our hearts still burn within us. We are renewed, we are inflamed with passion and purpose for life in our time. Shalom, Slava. Whichever way you turn, north, south, east, or west, may you encounter and embrace what you need for the next year of your life. May we extend ourselves to each other in love and care and grow a healthy community. Shalom.
Shalom.
And now if you can just stay where you are and face the center, I'll come down and join you and we'll sing Go Now in Peace. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. And if you go to the social hall this morning, because we didn't do potluck yesterday, we brought it this morning. So there's some potluck stuff out there. Have at it.